The honour and the privilege of being the best man. Now, as tradition dictates, Charlie, on behalf of the bridesmaids, I'd like to thank you for your kind words. As Charlie mentioned, back in August 2008, he was the best man at my wedding. And I've calculated that it was actually 14,184 hours since Charlie delivered that rather humiliating speech. But as an individual, I'm not really into revenge. But I thought for 8 minutes this afternoon I'll make a little exception. So you might be wondering how I know Charlie. Well, back in 1997, 13 years ago, I left university and I moved to the north of England, to the city of culture, city of dreams, Hull, to start my career with BP. And on the first day I walked into my office and there was this suave, sophisticated,
short,
wait, and very, very quiet individual. Now, unfortunately, the next day he moved out, and then Charlie moved in. And as they say, it's all history since then. And to help me with this speech, I thought about how I would go about describing Charlie to people who didn't know him. Now, unfortunately, the first thing that came to mind was something related to his physical appearance. On his wedding day, I mean, even mentioning a few short words about his physical appearance would be a little bit inappropriate and would probably dwarf what I was about to say in the speech. So, Charlie, you can rest easy. Under known circumstances whatsoever, I'm not going to mention anything about that. The second thing that comes to mind about Charlie is that he can be a little bit competitive at times. He once told me that his motto in life is, I'll get this right, show me a good loser and I will show you a loser. So it's probably no surprise that when you play a game of Snap with Charlie, you end up jumping around the room with your wins. And as I remember from Japan, if a 5-year-old is playing with a football around the park, he's quite likely to take them out with a tackle that Stuart Pearce would have been proud of. But by far and away, my most favourite competitive Charlie story comes from 2001 when we were on a stag do in Magaluf in Spain, where we took a break from our drinking and we went to play a game of crazy golf. For 6 of the stags, this was just a bit of fun in the sun. But for one, this was the Ryder Cup combined with the Open combined with the Masters. I have never seen somebody take a game of crazy golf so seriously. He tried to read the slope of each of the concrete greens. He picked up grass to track the wind direction. He even measured the angle of the wooden obstacle so he knew which way to send the ball around the court. After each shot, he, under his breath, shouted, "Get in the hole!" And thankfully he won, because we wouldn't be able to bury the head. The third thing that comes to mind about Charlie, and it's been mentioned a lot already, is his love and passion for the England football team. And every few years, as has already been said, poor Sam becomes a football widow as Charlie disappears off to some part of the world to watch England play in a tournament. It was back in 2002 that Charlie introduced me to this rather expensive, well, Charlie, I shouldn't have said that with a wise present, rather inexpensive and quite reasonably priced hobby of following England around the world. And over the last 8 years, Charlie, Alan and myself have been to some of the roughest and downright dangerous places around the world. Any of you who have been to Wembley will probably understand what I mean. My favourite tour was when we went to Japan. And in Japan, Charlie decided that he was going to go to each of the football matches dressed in a kimono, with a banzai headband with the Japanese flag in the middle of it. Now, this went down quite well with the locals. I think they found it a little bit amusing. Probably in the same way that we'd find a Japanese man at Wembley in his pyjamas and a dressing gown. The best night that we had in Japan was after England beat Argentina. And it would be fair to say that we did drink a fair amount of the local brew. And it would also be fair to say that our memory of what actually happened that night was probably a little bit faded afterwards. So you can probably imagine our amazement a few days later when we stumbled across a Japanese sports magazine with this article in it. Now this gentleman down here, who's a little bit short and looks like he might have lost a crazy golf game, is none other than the groom himself in his kimono. At the back you might find this a little hard to see, but don't worry, come and see me later. I've got 150 of these for you. You can hand out.
I'm the only person that's got that.
I've not even seen
No!
I've often wondered what the Japanese on here actually says. And no, I'm afraid I didn't actually translate it because I think this picture just says 1,000. Anyway, being a little bit more serious, I think if you were to ask any football-loving Englishman what they really wanted out of life, they would probably say three things: a beautiful wife, a beautiful child, and of course England to win the World Cup. Now, Charlie here has knocked off the first two in the space of 2-3 months. And I've got a funny little feeling that on the 11th of July he's going to complete his hat-trick. Charlie, you've been a great mate over the last 13 years. I've enjoyed every minute of our football tours, and long may that continue. Please let him come along. I'll continue to look
So
out.
boring without me.
And I'll make sure that he doesn't get in the state he was after his stag do everywhere.
Yeah. On
a personal note, I would say that Charlie, you're a really lucky man to have met such a lovely and wonderful lady as Sam.
Yes.
And Sam, despite the lack of height, the competitive spirit, and the odd drunken appearance in a foreign sports magazine, you have got yourself an absolutely top bloke. So to finish, I'd like to leave you with one thought that I hope will remain with you for the rest of your lives together. So Samantha, please could you place your hand on the table? And Charlie, could you place your hand on top of Sam's? Savour it. Talking from experience, that is the very last time you will ever have the upper hand. Please join me in a toast to the bride and groom, Charlie and Sam.
That's a mean clear.
I think we're going to cut the cake now.
Very quickly.